Many companies have a considerable number of rivals, which allows for healthy competition. This is not only good for companies to improve their products or services, but also helps people to have access to a variety of alternatives without sacrificing quality or quantity. Of course, not all corporations have competition. Because of the industry of focus and the type of products and services they offer, some sectors have barely enough companies to establish a rivalry, and many do not have the resources or knowledge to enter into a dispute. That was the case with SpaceX for several years, but it seems that the giant finally has worthy opponents to contend with. What will happen to SpaceX now that new controllers have entered its line of business? Are its contracts with NASA and other government agencies in jeopardy? Or could we soon see a second push from the company? While it is true that many people are interested in the space race that Elon Musk is embarking on, we cannot ignore that some corporations have also set their sights on the space travel market, and even a few million have opted for this alternative as another way to generate income. Therefore, one could say that what happened was something that had been seen for a long time. How will SpaceX respond to the threat? We shall see. As you know, for several years, SpaceX had been the only company dedicated to creating spacecraft that could take people to Mars. Much has been speculated on the subject, and all the achievements that corporation has made in recent years, but despite the incursion of other interested parties, such as Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic, it seems that both companies are only focused on the business of space travel for the time being. While SpaceX does have that rivalry, on the space ride side, we can't ignore that, at least in their plans to colonize and send people to Mars, there are still no opponents with enough vision to get people to this barely known planet. Or at least, there weren't until a few months ago, as news broke today that has shaken the spirits of Musk's company staff. That's right, two new rivals are appearing in the planes to get to Mars, and from what they've reported, it looks like they could make it long before SpaceX does. That's because they've made known their intentions to send the first people there in 2024. Relativity Space and Impulse Space have arrived from California, and they are ready to develop enough technology to land on the Red Planet without any problems. Of course, being a joint project, both organizations are doing everything they can to join forces and achieve what many have dreamed of: be the first to get to Mars. Sure, beating SpaceX inspires them to keep innovating, but that's not the only thing driving them to work on their respective parts of the project, day in and day out. All of these companies know that whoever gets to the Red Planet first will not only earn the praise of the rest of the world, but will also be left behind on the first commercial mission to take off from Earth, an event never before seen in human history. That alone inspires most of all these corporations, and believe it or not, it seems that some of these companies would become the thorn in Musk's finger, as they have made their plans to achieve their goal in far less time than SpaceX. As far as anyone knows, the world's richest man's corporation has submitted its plans for 2026, so in that sense at least, Relativity Space and Impulse Space might have what it takes to destroy the king. From the details that have been released about both companies, we know that Relativity Space is an aerospace company based in Los Angeles, California. Founded in 2015 by Tim Ellis and Jordan Noon, Relativity Space focuses on developing manufacturing technologies, space launch vehicles, and rocket engines for commercial orbital launches. Because of the company's industry, it was easy for Relativity Space to enter the space travel sector. Moreover, the company is doing well thanks to its investors and all the people who have faith in its project, as evidenced by the report it sent to Ars Technica, where they reported that they had raised more than $1 billion, enough to launch their rocket, Terran 1, later this year. Along with the news, Relativity Space has also reported that their vehicles are available for 3D printing, and that their booster, the Terran R, will be more powerful than SpaceX's Falcon 9. Whether or not they will deliver on their promises is something that we don't know, but what we can say on the subject is that, according to the data released by SpaceX, the Falcon 9 will be the booster to take the mission all the way to the Red Planet. So, both its planning and construction are being covered to the highest standards. We cannot take Relativity Space's words lightly, but at least in the time they have agreed to carry out their first mission, we can say that it is too early and that there are still a few more tests to be done, at least to consolidate the safety of the passengers and their return home. And we hit pause in the middle of the video. Before we continue, we'd like to ask you what you think about Elon Musk's new rivals. Do you think they will become a threat to the tycoon? Or do you think it's a good idea that these two alternatives have entered the market? Personally, we think a bit of competition for SpaceX is a good thing. If you're ready to continue with today's topic, let's move on. We've already met the developers of the Space Booster, so it's time to find out a bit more about the cruise makers. A comparison of relativity, Impulse Space is a new company, which was started by former SpaceX employee Tom Mueller. Known for being the first worker hired by the company and becoming the leader of the propulsion department, the so-called father of SpaceX's Merlin engines founded Impulse Space in 2021. And, as of a few months ago, they have become strategic allies of Relativity in the race to take people to other planets. In the engineer's words, he believes that launching a mission is already a solved problem, and that they have the capability to manufacture low-cost propellants that emit a much smaller pollutant footprint. Although testing and some demonstrations are still required, it seems that both teams are confident in their abilities and in what they have achieved so far. Thanks to the agreement between the two, it is known that Relativity Space's Terran R will be responsible for launching the cruise vehicle developed by Impulse Space. Similarly, after its arrival on Mars, the leader is expected to separate from the spacecraft and eventually settle on the planet's soil. This with the help of its 4 thrusters. Both companies seem to have everything well planned, and although they may seem to be in a hurry, insiders like Ars Technica point out that, quote, "With this mission design, where momentum and planning are valued, they are expected to deliver tens of kilograms of payload and science payload to the Martian surface." While they have yet to give a concrete response to that answer, Tim Ellis decided to come out and clarify why Relativity Space and Impulse Space are doing this. Quote, "We're big fans of SpaceX and their spacecraft, but there has to be more than one company working on this. I want to be the second company to step forward and say this is important. Hopefully, many more will emerge in the future." Along with that comment, Ellis made it clear that Relativity Space has signed an exclusive agreement with Impulse Space. Their goal? To collaborate on that and other missions aimed at the space race. That agreement will run until 2029, so it is hoped that, in that time, both corporations will achieve their goals and get people to Mars. In the meantime, 2 other competitors have joined the vision of achieving the longed-for colonization of Mars, so we'll keep an eye out for more news on the subject. With that final comment, we close today's video. While today's news has shown that Elon Musk already has considerable competition, we cannot overlook the years of experience, innovations, and updates that SpaceX has delivered in recent years. If it wasn't for the space race, we wouldn't be talking about commercial travel and colonization of other planets, so at least on that side, we can say that the company's efforts have paid off. Now it's your turn. What do you think of these companies that have come out to compete with SpaceX? Do you think they have what it takes to achieve their goals? Leave your comments below, and don't forget to add your suggestions for future content. We're reading them. Thanks for sticking around until this part of the video. Subscribe, and if you liked the article, leave a like. See you next time!